This episode is sponsored by decriminalized hallucinogens. Okay, hola spotters, welcome back to Soul Mechanics. This is going to be a quick and easy one, relating a story that kind of goes all the way back to the very beginning, sort of an origin story of sorts. But first, I should like to say I very much hope that you guys enjoyed my obscene and degenerate cross-dressing video for ContraPoints. We're going to be addressing her in a bigger way this weekend. She is, in fact, an incredible target asset, somebody that we very much intend to pursue, you know, hardline, whatever it takes to get her aboard. So we'll see how that turns out. She is kind of a big deal, although at the same time it seems she's being canceled as of late. Whatever that means, I can't. There's a canceling thing going on. I'm not sure exactly what that means, but I believe it's negative for her. So she's kind of on the outs as regards YouTube, I do believe, although, I mean, I doubt it. She's a really big deal, but whatever, we'll see what happens. Whatever the case, we are going to be diligent in our pursuit of her engagement as regards our investigation channel overall. So, firstly, I suppose I should say, support the channel in general, support that particularly. Anybody who's a fan of ContraPoints or what have you, spread the word. Let her know that we're good peeps and you know, get her on board. But I mean, obviously, press the fucking like button, please, on this video, on that video, on all the videos. Go back to the channel. After you watch this, go back to the channel, go to every single video and press the like button. That's your homework. But subscribe if you're not subscribed, and share. You need to share the video. You guys need to share the fucking videos. I know there are people out there. This video is for a specific somebody. It's dedicated to Sir Matt Cast, alias Marco Antonio. You catch him in the comments of our second to last video. He's my eyeball guy from the Acid Paradise group, and as it happens, he is indeed a brilliant spotter, but in a very particular way, and that's what we're going to be addressing in this video. But I mean, the point is that I know there are people out there who are genuine spotters, who are into this, who understand it and are engaged with it. So we need for you guys to be engaged and share the videos with other people you think might be interested, just people in general. Share it on your fucking Facebook, spread the word, help us grow. We absolutely require the channel to grow in the immediate future. It's a part of the project, a part of the experiment. It's a necessary happenstance in order for us to proceed with this experimental investigation. So again, please, whatever you decide to do, help spread the channel out. Anyways, I met this dude, Matt Cast, eyeball guy, in the Acid Paradise group. And obviously he's a psychonaut. He's very deeply engaged, involved with the whole psychedelic exploration world, I suppose you could say. That mindset, that state of being, that pursuit, that interest, he's deeply engaged in it. He's very much so an alchemist, though he doesn't like the word. He doesn't want to use it. He's very much against words of this nature. He doesn't believe it to be that this terminology to be used in the manner that we do. Alchemy, as we use it, is the practice of utilizing substances, natural substances particularly, but chemical substances in general, in order to explore the self, explore the psyche, to unlock parts of the psyche, to align the self, and to, what's the word, to... There's the word I lost. It's happening again. It's happening again. You know, to rearrange the self in a manner that is, you know, suitable to your standards. I can't think of the fucking word, I'm sorry, but I'll get it. But, anyways, people who use drugs, for the most part, as it were, to you know, alter the spirit, to engage and to grow and to evolve their spiritual aspect, I suppose you could say, which, as we should have clarified in the previous degenerate cross-dressing video, the spirit or the spiritual aspect relates to the emotions, the feelings, and most especially the feelings that resonate, what is extended. That's what the spiritual aspect of the entity is. It has nothing to do with religious concepts or anything of that nature. It is just generally the relationship that you extend, what shares from you. You know, like you're supposed to be sharing the channel. That's a spiritual aspect of your entity, and it would indeed be an evolution of your spiritual aspect to go ahead and do that. Most especially if there are people out there who are feeling like, well, this guy's a weirdo, the channel, they do weird shit, their ideas are somewhat controversial in some way, whatever it might be that, you know, causes for you to be thinking, well, I don't really want to share it because it's not really relatable and it's kind of like scary to me. That's another factor of the cognitive dissonance. That's another part of you being afraid to extend your limitations, to, you know, to get outside of your comfort zone. So yes, it would indeed be for some of you out there, I know specifically for some of you, it would be a particularly huge leap in your personal development and your personal evolution as a spiritual entity to go about just sharing the fucking video and saying, hey, I like this, check it out. That would boost you. I mean, there's a lot of you out there who would experience a great degree of development and evolution in your personal entity by simply fucking posting a hello here and there. You guys gotta snap out of it. Get in the game. Play. My spotters, you people watching, you're not pawns, you're players. You fucking play. Spot on. Anyways. What was I saying? So, alchemy, that's what I was saying. Alchemy and magic, for example. Magic, as we relate to spot casting, the practices of hypnosis, neurolinguistic programming, you know, being able to alter the functions of natural elements, which comes back to chemistry and comes back to alchemy, where it's used to engage the spirit, to customize, that's the word, to customize the spiritual aspect, to customize the personal character, and to engage and explore unseen, hidden factors of it, locked off factors, which indeed psychedelics is a necessity in certain areas for that particular measure of engagement as regards the identity. But whatever the case, he's to be regarded an alchemist, this guy. And as I've tried to speak with him about this, when we use the terms magics, that's speaking to how we make use of our resource technology. The very fact that we can indeed, and quantum mechanics shows us this, you should know this, sir. He's deep into quantum mechanics as well. He's actually on his way to becoming a full-fledged physicist. But this guy's a particularly impressive fellow. Sir, if hopefully you are watching this, you are very impressive. In any case, we can discard that terminology if it suits him better, which it does, because he considers himself, you know, a hardline scientist and doesn't like to use words such as magic and such. But science in and of itself and scientific practices, the ability to make use of the fundamental elements of existence in such a way as to customize your very reality, these things are it's magical. That your observation in and of itself causes a directive influence upon the function of reality as it's happening. That's magic. It's magical. It's miraculous. So, I mean, I guess he doesn't like the terms, but that's what it is. Anyways, what we're trying to do here with the channel overall is going to fuse those two. Fuse the magical, mystical elements with the scientific, practical elements. Bring these terminologies together. Show that we are all talking about the same shit. We're just in that Tower of Babel scenario where, again, we're all saying the same thing in different ways and we don't understand each other even though we agree. We think that we're arguing, that's what's happening in most, if not all, cases as it stands, except where we encounter some of these newer considerations, such as the non-binary thing we addressed in the past video, but that's taking us off course. Anyway, to get to the story short and sweet, my very first psychedelic experience was with LSD. It was a white blotter strip, and during this I had this grand adventure, of course, with all my friends wandering around. There were a couple of us that were on the white blotter, and then the rest of them were probably like stoned on pot or something. But everybody was having a ball, and we were going on these what became this grand adventure. Obviously, because it was on acid, everything, you know, turned into this grandiose story of sorts that was playing out, and it stretched on, and you know, I'd separate from the other people who were on it. There was one point where I was sitting in the back seat of a car, and my friend was in front of me, and I got like the speedy aspect of the acid. I started pushing my feet up against the back of the seat. It crammed him into the window. I don't know why I remember that, but it's like that's one of the best memories I have of it. It was just like expressing this impulse of you know, this speedy rush that I had, and pushing my at the time my best friend Adam up against the fucking whatever it's called, windshield. But I suppose to say, for that extension of that, Sean, Adam's little brother, who became one of the biggest operatives we had in play as regards Project Philanthropy when we first started all this. He and I had a kind of a falling out over Facebook recently, but I do believe he watches the channel, so if you're watching, Matt, shout out to you. I really hope that we could bridge that gap at some point, come back together, work together. I mean, this is happening. The Status Initiative is actually a pretty fucking big deal now, and you helped build it, so I'd really like you aboard, man. But whatever, he had a problem with me being proud of myself, says that I'm narcissistic because I'm proud of what we built when he built it too. I don't, never mind, going off chart. Anyway, so there's one point where I went home, and I went into my house, and there was this mirror. There's always this mirror in the hallway right next door to the bathroom, right next to the bathroom door. As you walk up the stairs, you turn the corner, and there's this big full-body mirror. And I was tripping out, you know, we were on my way up to my bedroom, everybody's rushing, there's like a line of people going up the stairs, all my friends, and you know, the guys and gals that we hung out with at the time. And we're going up the stairs in this line, which seemed like it came across to me as like I was in line, kind of like, I'm not sure how to explain it, like at like an airport or something. I don't know how to explain it, it's not important, but we were it was a single file line going up the stairs, and I'm the next piece, and I'm jumbling up the stairs, and it's like this long journey going up the stairs. It probably lasted like 3 seconds, but when I got to the top, I turned the corner, I looked at myself in the mirror, and boom, time froze. I saw one eyeball, my eyeball, just warp and extend, and it was just the eyeball in the center with like colors coming off of it and streaming out in like myriad shapes and fractals, and it was just like it was that point that solidified this consideration that I had been holding the whole time throughout this. During the trip, I wasn't really thinking so much about this, but throughout my life around that, I was thinking about these ideas, like about God, ideas about spirituality, ideas about synchronicity, ideas about what I didn't know first fucking thing about quantum mechanics then, but I had this idea that the world was watching you, you know, that when you looked at the world, it reflected you, that you saw that the world looking back at you, and you know, this concept in my mind where it was a loose, misunderstood concept at the time, but that when I looked at the world, that it looked back and it reacted in some way, like it was like there was an identity hiding behind the world, kind of, you know, peeking through this facade that it had set up in order to hide itself, to hide the reality that it was essentially me looking back at myself. And when I saw that eyeball, it just, boom, it froze, and it solidified that concept, and it came to me loud and clear. It was like the sight of God, that I was seeing myself being reflected in the world, and that was just that moment right there was one of the most impacting, like, declarations of existence I've ever had throughout the course of my life. It stuck with me, and it's always been something that's fidgeting there in the back of my mind, reminding me of that moment, of those considerations, that when I look at the world, it's looking back at me, that's what I'm seeing. But as like a reflection, it's like the opposite. And so, you know, there's this idea in my mind of that kind of dweller on the threshold idea, that concept that there's a shadow self, another person that is, you know, kind of combating you, that is the Jungian archetype shadow self. It's the, you know, the polar opposite of you. It's your internal nemesis, in a manner of speaking, which of course right now we're dealing with this investigation into the nemesis of humanity, into this shadow self, alter ego that we present as a cultural entity. And it just so happened to be in this acid paradise, this psychedelics group, I found this one dude. Just by chance, I happened to stumble across this one dude, which it was obviously there were little synchronicities that led me to stumbling into that. The conversation that you were having, Sir Matt Cass, that you were having, that I interrupted and spoke into, there was a reason why I spoke into that. It was relating to other things that I had been engaging at the time. There were little things, little coincidences that lined up that made me jump into that conversation, and lo and behold, you happen to be this person I pick out, who happens to be, you know, probably the one person I can tell you. I have recruited so many people in the initiative. Every single person that we have, like in the initiative group page, the actual control group page, I think there's like 336 people. Every single fucking one of them are hand-picked out of crowds of people. And I'd pick, you know, like 10 to 12 people at a time off of Messenger to try and get them engaged. Out of these people, you know, there might be 4 of them that actually gives a shit, that has any interest, and out of those 4, there might be 1, if I'm lucky, that is actually, you know, has a promising interest in it. And you, out of all the people in that group, probably the one person I could have pulled out that actually had an interest, and he has a deep and engaged interest. He gives a shit. Not only does he give a shit, but he's so interested. He said in one of his comments to the channel, that to the fucking initiative video, he said that, you know, he's so happy to see other people who see the world as he does, but we don't actually see the world precisely as you do we? Because what do we see here? We see an opposite. We see like a polar opposite, wherein you have this purely scientific, hardline physicist, kind of almost atheist. He has an atheist outlook. He considers himself an atheist, I believe. An actual atheist, not like these new age atheist bullshit con artists who are just pissed off at religion, but he actually legitimately considers himself what, you know, the term atheist is meant to convey. So essentially this guy, and with the magic wording and not liking the terminology, he's the polar opposite. He's exactly like me. We have the same interests, we have the same considerations, we have the same ideology and outlook, kind of the same interpretive faculties of life, except we're the polar opposite as regards our you know, schematic, as it were. And the one thing that drew me to him initially, that caused me to even look at the conversation he was having, was that eyeball, which I'll put it right here. That eyeball is precisely what I saw in that mirror. That I happened to find you in the psychedelics group, which was my first psychedelic experience, where I saw that eyeball, which happens to be just the perfect person to pick out of a crowd of people. I mean, that's a fucking synchronicity, dude. If you think that's just a random happenstance coincidence, I'm sorry. You need to open your eyes, man. There is life in the world. When you look at the world, it's looking back. That's the reason why it reacts. When your observation causes for, you know, a wave to collapse into a series of particles, that's because it sees you too. It's alive. So just and he has a purely mechanistic outlook too, which is soul mechanics. We're intending to convey a mechanistic outlook. Yes, I'm a Newtonian, as I said before, I'm a Newtonian mechanics guy through and through. I see the world as machinery, but the machinery is alive. I mean, for God's sake, you're machinery too. Do you consider yourself to be living? You're intelligent. You're conscious. Consciousness exists. It is in everything. And it's reflecting. It's looking back at you. The reason why the particles react the way they do is because they are being considerate of your investigation. They understand you. They have intelligence. There is intelligence. And the lead for this, I'll see if I can post it. I might not get it up right away because I don't really have time right now, but I'll get it in the description at some point. There's a lead for this wherein people actually just created tiny little robots that each individual robot has its own actual intelligence. Like, it's artificial intelligence, obviously, by our standard definition, but it has... I mean, we're going places in this year, in the coming years or so. Things are going to start to change. You're going to start to see things change a lot, insofar as regards our understanding of what intelligence even is, let alone what it means to us as a term. These things are going to start to change wildly. It should have already happened, but we kind of pushed it back. And I'm not going to get into how or why, but there's a reason we needed to push that development back, because it could have caused catastrophic reactions in society had it happened when it should have. But things have changed. Again, time travel aspect comes into play, and I've stated already, I personally believe in time travel, so far as by means of the psyche, because I have done it, and I've seen changes that have occurred, and people all over the world are seeing changes occur. I'll give you a lead in that whole Mandela effect thing, but anyway, I'm out of time right now. That's the story. That's the synchronicity. Thank you, particularly. Thank you, everybody, all spotters attending. Please help us share the channel. There's a world backing me up right there. Alert. Share the channel. For this particular guy, thank you so much for attending, man. It's really good to have somebody who genuinely gives a shit aboard. I'd love to see you guys commenting, especially on the crazy videos I do, like the last one. Give us some feedback. Get in the game. That's all for now. Sorry I'm all disheveled, but I mean, it's not. I need to go to sleep. Love you guys. Thank you for attending. Hila Salai. Terviuni Siari. Namaste.